Hey everyone, thank you for joining me. I'm a guy called Joe. This is Bootstrapping Tools of Let's Build, where we help scrappy bootstrappers just like yourself figure out how to supercharge their workflows by utilizing third-party tools and applications. Now, in today's video, we're going to be talking about the basics of SQL querying. So if you're new to SQL, this is going to be a perfect video for you because we're going to go over the foundation of SQL querying so that you can start getting insights out of your relational database. Yeah, there's a few concepts that we do want to go over, so let's not waste any time. Let's get right to it. All right, so the first thing that you want to understand about SQL querying is the foundation of the structure. And it's really simple. It's simply select, from, and where. So those three statements are the core foundation of any SQL query that you're going to write. Let's start with the select statement. So with the select statement, it's just as straightforward as it sounds. You're basically just selecting the columns that you want to see within your statement. If you don't know what your columns are, what you can always do is you can say select star, and that's going to give you all the columns back that are within that table. If you do know what you're trying to select, you can do select column name, and then to add additional columns in there, you just do comma, column name 2, comma, column name 3, etc. Once you have that all set up, that's all you need to do for the select part of your query. The next thing is the from clause. So the from statement is very similar to the select statement. It's very straightforward. You're basically just saying from the place that you want to grab the data from. So it would be from and then the table name. Now, sometimes you might see a word in front of the table name, so word dot table name. That first word is essentially the schema that you're pulling it from. You don't have to worry too much about it unless you do have multiple schemas. In most cases, you're going to have one schema unless your database is actually pretty complex and you do have multiple schemas for it. Now, if you just set up a MySQL server, you're most likely going to have public as the schema. So your query would look something like this: select star from public dot table name. Now that table name can be anything. So if you were, say, querying your users, it'd be select star from public dot users. And that, when you run that, it's going to give you all the users that are available within that users table. Now the next part is the where clause. Now, the where clause is essentially where you're going to put in the criteria in which you want to filter your data set by. So what you would do is you would say where certain column meets a certain criteria. Now, in that criteria set, what you can say is, since we're using the users example here, you can do where users.email equals, and then the email address. When you do that, it's going to run the query against that entire table's data set and finds only the matches that work with your where clause. And that's basically the foundations of a SQL query. That's going to give you a lot of power in order to drag the data out of your database so that you can start analyzing it. Now, the join clause comes before the where clause, so it's going to be from table and then join table name on. So that's on. And then after the ON, you just need to put in the keys that match between those two tables. So if you had a users table and then you had an accounts table, and the accounts table had a user ID associated to it, then what you can do is you can say select star from users, join accounts on users.id equals accounts.userid. Now the user ID is the foreign key on the accounts table that is equal to the primary ID on the users table. And that's essentially just how you use the join clause. It's all it really is saying, I want to take this table, join it with this other table, and here's the key that you need to match up on so that I am getting the accurate data so that you're matching up those rows together. It's essentially, if you are used to Excel, it's the same thing as a lookup query or a lookup formula, where you're just finding the identifying key that matches on the other data set and finding the information that's relevant to it. Now, the last thing that I want to go over today is the limit clause. Now, the limit clause is really helpful when you're querying a large table, a table that has thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions of rows. But if you just do a select star and then your clauses, you're not going to really get the response or the results back in a timely manner. So a really good way if you're just working with the table for the first time, you just want to see the data within there, do your SQL query. So select star from users where blah, blah, blah. And then at the end of it, say limit and then a number. So limit 5 is something that I like to do just to see data from that table so that I can start analyzing it and determine what fields I do want to see or what things I can query by. But essentially, that's a really good way to start off your SQL queries. But that's it for this video. That was the basics of SQL querying. If you did find this video helpful, please make sure to hit that like button. It's the best way to support our channel and make sure that we can continue making content for you and all those other Scribe and Bootstrappers out there who are looking to supercharge their workflows using third-party tools and applications out there. But I'm a guy called Joe. This is Bootstrapping Tools. Let's build. It's been a pleasure, and we're out.